Have you ever felt the need to continue or enhance the story of an intellectual property you love? We're going to find out today when we talk about fan fiction for Systematic Geekology. We are the Priests of the Geeks. I'm your host, Christian Ashley, joined by, of course, the greatest co-host not named TJ Blackwell in the land, Elizabeth Pengling Clyde, the co-leader of the revolution against Joshua Knoll. How are you doing, Peng?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Christian?
I am doing amazingly. This is not my busy day for seminary. I got a lot done today, got a good phone call done today with a friend. So I'm looking forward to it. But we are not alone. You've heard their voices before. One of them you should love more than the other, but that's okay because we love them too. I'm of course talking about my good friends, John and Barbara Erdely. How you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Doing wonderful. Good to be here. It's great to hear your sarcastic voice.
I know you miss it so much. You don't have me teasing you every day like we did back in college.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with all that in mind, guys, in no particular order, what have you been geeking out on?
So I've been watching this anime. It's called A Sign of Affection. And it's about this college girl who is deaf. And so she, of course, meets this boy who wants to enter into her world. Very cutesy, I know. And so through him, she's experienced all new things. And through her, he's learning all about her world. And it's just like the cutest little thing ever.
That's interesting.
Some Crunchyroll.
That sounds different.
Not really John's cup of tea, but...
I mean, it's so adorable. It makes you a little swoon. It's great.
Where's the testosterone?
Barbara, how about you?
The testosterone. I mean, he's a manly man. He loves to travel. He's traveled the world.
I mean,
there's the testosterone.
Well, we've been so we finished season 1 of One Piece. So we've been going back and alternating animes with the kids so that they don't get bored, really. Because of course One Piece is like 1,000 episodes. So
yeah, it's super long.
We're currently watching season 4 of the old school Sailor Moon. So
nice.
Little one, Luna, it keeps blowing her mind that there's actually a character in the series named Luna. So whenever they're talking to or about Luna, she's always like, huh? What?
My namesake.
One of them, yeah.
Excellent.
That and the Pokemon cards. I'm still geeking over the Pokemon cards, so yes.
I'm glad to hear that's still going on. Now, as for me, I have recently been listening to the Delta Flyers podcast, which is done by I think it's Robert McNeil and Garrett Wong, who played Tom Paris and Ensign Harry Kim on Star Trek Voyager. They're going through every episode of Voyager ever, and you're discussing like the behind the scenes stuff that happened, what they remember from the episode, what they don't, and then I think eventually they're going to Deep Space Nine. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's my favorite Star Trek series of all time. So that's what we've been geeking out on, guys. But as I mentioned earlier, we are discussing fan fiction, fanfics. I will probably flip-flop between the two terms as we discuss it today. For those of you not in the know, fan fiction is essentially the idea of a fan writing a story about intellectual property that they like, Star Trek or Harry Potter or Lost or what have you. There's tons of media out there, so people naturally as fans write for it, for their own twists on how things could happen, and your mileage may vary on how it actually ends up working. But for us tonight, I believe most, if not all, have written fanfics. So what has everyone else written when it comes to fanfics? What's the IP you wrote for, and what specifically did you write? Let's start with John.
See, I wrote my first fan fiction was a Harry Potter fan fiction because I didn't like the way book 5 ended, so I decided I was going to craft my own ending because I didn't want Sirius to die, so I had to... basically, it started with the explaining what the doorway was, and it kind of went into a alternate realm instead of, him just dying in the end. So
I don't think they actually explained that he physically died.
I know, they never really said, like, he died, but, I mean, it was...
You assume.
It's kind of like Jet. You think he's dead. Jet and Atla, Avatar Last Airbender. But
that's still one of the great meta jokes they have in the Ember Islands players. It's like, did Jet just die?
Oh, yeah. It's not really clear. But I can't wait for the live action. That's going to be awesome. But
okay.
The other fan fiction I wrote was a Golden Compass fan fiction because, again, I didn't like the way it ended, so I wanted Lyra and Will to end up together. So I wrote a follow-up to the third book where the two of them reunite.
shipping is a common reason why people write fanfics, and I'm sure. Yeah, I see that face. Yeah, I know why. One of us would have done that. But we'll get to you later. Barbara, how about you?
I've actually written very many fanfictions. My first one, I think, was a Transformers fanfiction exploring the possibility of organics living on Cybertron. So I had like a race of organics from Cybertron crash land on Earth and like their history and backstory on that. But most of my fan fictions are based on romance, but with the twist of original characters in it. So I like to explore the mechanics of what if there was like another character or a new character and things, and how would it pretty much throw the world off kilter. But I
That's
delved
your
into
idea.
Harry
Sorry to
Potter.
interrupt you, Barbara. That general idea of introducing a new character is known as OC, or original character, for like someone who wants to see how that person would interact with that universe. So continue, Barbara. Sorry once again for interrupting you.
No, you're good.
How dare you?
No, I mean, I've done my own Harry Potter. I did Percy Jackson and the Olympians. The Forbidden Kingdom was one of them.
Jackie Chan Jet Li movie.
And then I think one of my more recent ones, I did do a One Piece fan fiction with Sanji and Zoro. Not shipping the two, but they were two of the main characters.
No slash ficking for you?
No slash ficking, no. But yeah, I've done quite a few of them. And a Pokemon one. Yes, I did do a Pokemon one with Ash.
Very nice.
Yes.
All right, Pang, I know you're busting at the seams.
So I have written a few. I'm more of a binge reader than a writer, but my first written one was, of course, Inuyasha, which has been my first love, first anime. He's literally tattooed on my arm, as he should be. He will always be with me, even when I die. So, of course, but I loved Kagome with Inuyasha, but also I played around with Kagome with his brother Shishomaru, just because, why not?
Why not?
Why not? That's the whole reason why we write fan fiction, because I was very upset with Inuyasha at the time with Kikiho. Her name is Kikiyo, but I call her Kikiho in the anime.
Yes, Kikyo.
Inuyasha fans understand. And I think Naruto was a big one for me too, because I was like, early high school, middle school. I wrote a few of that to make Sakura the bad booty that she is. And I'm trying to think what else. Maybe, I don't think I wrote Pokemon, but I read Pokemon. I read a lot of One Piece. There was a Fairy Tail, of course. Favorite anime. That's my avatar. Lots of Fairy Tail.
Okay. Another term you'll often hear when fanfics are introduced is canon defilement, which is what Pang is all about when it comes to shipping.
It's the whole point. It's you literally create your whole another ending.
And that's part of the fun too, is just making up scenarios like that. Me, on the other hand, when I was a kid, I never officially wrote these ideas down, but I had an idea for several real adventures of Johnny Quest. I was huge into that, and writing new stories for what could happen for the Quest team. And then I had for Teen Titans when that came out as a cartoon. I introduced my OC Mimic, whose ability was, guess what? He could mimic any power, but only at 50% of its potential. So even then, I was able to nerf my Mary Sue, and we'll get to that term later on. But as far as what actually I wrote down, my first official one would have been a Star Wars fanfic where it would happen in the midst of the New Jedi Order. It was a mission for all the younger Jedi to go to Korriban and stop the Sith from taking advantage of the Yuzan Vong War to take over the galaxy, where I had my OC, and that name will come up a couple of times. His name was, and this is where, for those of you who do know me by NKSCF, it comes from Nathaniel Kenobi Solo Clan Fett. So you can already imagine as good as I think some of that ended up being, just how much of a Gary Stu he ended up being. He was the perfect Jedi. Everyone loved him, but he also flirted with the dark side, but it was okay because he used it well. As a younger writer, I needed a better editor because no editor existed except for me, and I was a bad editor.
It was called Beta Reader back in the day. Remember you had
beta readers, yes.
I had a couple
Yes,
of
they were
betas
very
at
helpful.
that time.
But as far as what survives today, because I don't think that exists anymore out there in the ether. I did do it now and then, here and there, fanfic, where as I was reading through fanfics, for those of you now and then, here and there, is basically the story of a guy who sees this mysterious blue-haired girl who is holding this water pendant. She is from the future. He ends up coming to the future with her, where the world, like water, is a scarcity, and now we have fighting over resources and stuff like that. And my idea was to create an OC in that universe who, because I saw a lot of fanfics where OCs were coming in and they were just Mary Sue's or Gary Stu's, my idea was, what if I created one who made things worse instead of making things better? I really enjoyed doing that one. Next up was, of course, Breaking the Deal / Repercussions, which was my Spider-Man fanfic and was my outcry against what happened in One More Day, where he and Mary Jane sold their marriage to the Marvel analog to Satan Mephisto because they had to keep an old lady who should have died decades ago in the comics from dying in Aunt May. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed actually making Peter a character again, which has not happened as often as it should has in the past 20 years since that happened. And my last one was another Star Wars. It was called The Chosen. That was basically just me trying to use lesser used characters and alien races and creating a vast story from the huge canon of legends that I never got around to finishing because eventually life got in the way. So that's what everyone has written. Does anyone have a favorite fanfic written by someone else? And I wrote that question to me.
Yeah, I was
so
like,
I
I've binged so many of them. I mean, there's a couple I've reread, but I wouldn't say any favorite sticks out to me.
Was it okay? In that case, was there a favorite fandom you would normally read fanfic from?
Yeah, surprisingly, I guess Naruto was always the biggest fandom I would go into, just because I'm literally okay with Sakura ending up with anyone except Naruto. I know, poor guy, but I'm like, even Sakura and Shino. I wrote a fanfic about that. About that guy with little glasses.
Thirsty.
Shino? Yeah.
Shino is like.
Shino.
I love him. He did not get enough credit.
But Barbara, how about you? Oh, sorry, Penguin. Do you have more to say?
No, you're good. I was like, but yeah, Naruto's the best.
Okay.
Fanfics.
I mean, there's a few particular ones that I favor over the others. The Lord of the Rings is one, because that one that inspired quite a few themes in my own books. And I like to see how fans have recreated or delved into Tolkien's world and kind of made things their own. It's really interesting to see, especially if I'm having writer's block, kind of, and then I'm looking at different ideas that other people have done. I don't ever take any of their ideas, but I'm kind of that's intriguing. I mean, makes me think a little bit. But One Piece, I'm actually currently reading a One Piece fanfic right now. And the last one I read was a Star Wars one. But yeah, most of the ones that I read all do include OCs. So I'm a big OC person. You haven't
John, how about you?
really read anything in a while, have you?
My Little Pony.
You'd have to. Well, he'd have to know how to read first.
I'm a writer, not a reader.
When is this though? Have you been reading fanfiction at work?
To Barbara.
When I used to be on night shift all the time, I used to keep myself busy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
My Little Pony Friendship is Magic fanfiction.
It's all coming out now.
That was some classics back in the day.
It's coming out.
Yeah, Joshua and I did a couple of episodes on MLP not too long ago. That was a ton of fun. Anything else, John?
That's the only thing I read recently.
You're diehard, Brony, huh?
Pretty diehard, especially when it comes to the Luna.
Well, he did make me name Luna
Celestia
after
arc.
Luna, so
we named our daughter Luna after Princess Luna.
It just was coincidentally Luna from Sailor Moon too.
It worked.
It worked out in the end. She's a pretty cute kid. For me, it was, as far as favorite fanfic ever written, when I was writing this question down, I was like, there's surely something I did back in the day, because it's been so long since I've read a lot. I really loved every time this updated. I just had to read it. And I realized there wasn't such a thing, at least that I could remember. So most of my favorites that I can remember are actually like parody fics or troll fics. Parody fics being like taking a central idea, like this is how the universe works, but I'm going to change that for the sake of this fanfic. Or a troll fic being written by someone who is writing bad on purpose to make it look, because another thing that was rampant in the fan fiction, fandom was people who shouldn't have been writing were writing. They didn't know how to construct sentences or what character depth was about. So these nonsensical things would happen. And my favorite one out of all of that, we'll get to the worst ones for our bonus question later on, which everyone for Patreon and Captivate can get to. Just a little hint there, a little spice for you. My favorite is Light and Dark, The Adventures of Dark Yagami, which was I'm hoping a troll fic, because if this person actually is legitimate in what they believe, they're insane. It's a Death Note fanfic where Light has always had a brother named Dark, and he becomes the main character. And there are such things as blood bananas. The Queen of England gets involved. L shouts about how he needs to use stealth and then starts screeching like a madman going through a window at one point in time. It's the definition of canon defilement, but it's so much fun just to see how worse it got along the way. And I'm fairly certain it is written by someone who is purposely writing a troll fic, because sometimes you could just tell. But yeah, fandoms, on the other hand, normally I do remember I was big into Star Wars fanfics, but I was always upset because normally it would end up being someone who shipped Obi-Wan and Anakin together. And I was like, why would you ever do that? Why do you hate yourself?
I guess.
Or they would just take bad premises and work on that. And very little people were writing in the Legends continuity. And this was before Disney bought Star Wars at that point in time. Other than that, Marvel stuff I was always big on. Avatar: The Last Airbender. I do remember a good one. It was about, I think it might actually be called Avatar Karuk. That was like basically taking that small story that we got from Avatar: The Last Airbender and actually giving Karuk a backstory and stuff like that. I enjoyed that one a lot back in the day. So there's a positive one outside of the troll and parody fix. And then let's see. I think that's about it. But all four of us have established we do write fanfics. Why?
Why not?
Because, one of the reasons why I read it so much is a lot of the times I don't want the anime to end. Or like I've read so many Spirited Away fanfics because it's like what was going to happen? Do they meet again? Right. We'll never know. But fanfics kind of helps, give you closure.
John and Barbara?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, writing fan fictions and using OCs definitely broadens, the story for me a lot. Because then if I insert my own character into the story, then it opens up a whole realm of new possibilities, which then I can explore. And I've actually used a couple of themes that I've come up with in my fan fictions to use for my original stories. I mean, cutting out all of the canon stuff. I've used themes and characters that I've made OCs, and loosely inspired some of my characters from my Dragon series on those. So it helps me kind of practice for what works and what doesn't work for my original series. So that's what I like writing about.
I think dissatisfaction and the idea that you could do it better is a challenge is a big driver, especially for like Star Wars, because I mean a lot of people who hate on the newest trilogy or some of the newer stuff. I mean, you see how many fan edits that they've made of some of the more recent stuff like Kenobi. And you realize sometimes the fans actually do make better edits or better products than what seems to get put out by the officials, or even video games like Pal World, which is kind of like a fan fiction-ish. I mean,
it's very controversial now.
It's like the idea.
I really want to play it, but at the same time, this is a big thing over Whatnot right now.
It's like the Wish.com version of Pokemon, but it's so funny.
I think Nintendo is trying to take them down now. So,
as far as Nintendo is concerned, for us anywhere, it's basically Pokemon and Minecraft and a little bit of
Arc survival.
What's the word I'm looking for? No, goodness gracious, Fortnite in there.
So it's like I'm curious to play it, but at the same time, I can see why Nintendo's a little miffed.
Yeah.
They actually did
think
cease and desist to someone who was making a Pokemon mod, which changed the in-game pals, I think they're called, into the designs of Pokemon. That's what they sent a cease and desist to.
Yeah,
that was a fan-made thing, not the developer.
But as far as like, why did I ever write fanfic? Well, John's right. I can do better. Was always my point of view. That's how I got into writing anyways, for writing my own books. I read The Stand and said, man, I love this book, but I can do better. Those books have not been published because they're in fact not better. They need a lot of work done before I ever let other humans see them besides John, who was actually a good editor for the most part.
Yeah,
for the most part.
He right-clicked reject all edits on my when I edited his book.
No. Yeah, I say like most of the time, John and I have agreed, like, yeah, these things need to change. But like me, it's for like I mentioned earlier with the now and then here and there. Like it's a easy fandom, but very few people are aware of it. I think John and I might be the only people in here who've watched it, unless you've shared that with Barbara behind my back.
I don't think
like a traitor.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know where you can stream it. I have to buy it.
That'll have to be like added to our anime hoard of what we need to watch the next year.
But like I said, it was the general idea. Like in a lot of fanfics out there, you see a character who is an original or character created by the author, who inserts himself into the story, sometimes ends up becoming a Mary Sue, Gary Stu, and ruins everything along the way, making other characters make decisions they would never do. And I was sick and tired of it. It's like, how can you get a good idea like that and then not make it work? So I decided to bring the idea of, what if I made my own character, they do something that affects the story, but it's in a negative way, and they have to deal with the repercussions of that. Essentially, he introduces tasers back into the world that has lost that technology. And now, instead of lethally killing a bunch of people, they can non-lethally take them down. This opposing slave army that owns a lot of slaves can now add more people to their number that otherwise would have died. And he's responsible for that. What can he do? Then, with, of course, breaking the deal, which actually got finished, repercussions unfortunately didn't, once again, because of time and just not having any of it, was that idea of, in Marvel canon, there is an event that is so egregiously stupid and out of character for Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson to sell their marriage because the Marvel editors don't like the fact that he was married because they can't relate to him. And I guess they must hate their wives as well. That they did that, like, I could not take that as a fan lying down. So I wrote my own version. And for quite a time, it was actually popular. I actually, the other day, got an email from fanfiction.net, which I haven't logged into in years. That's someone had favorited my story. And that, not gonna lie, that made me feel pretty dang good.
I haven't checked on my stories in a long time. I left them up like half written. But I think I changed my email account, so even if I went back to look at them, I'm scared to see what I'll see.
Yeah. And in general, like, going back, like, I was never a perfect writer. I'm not going to pretend I was. Like, I was just earlier today revising a story that's already been published because I noticed I had missed a word in a sentence. And,
which one?
We just didn't notice it. I was doing Lost Time.
Lost Time?
And I'd forgotten to put an "and" in a sentence. So it made the sentence sound stupid without it. It's like, oh gosh, that's published, that's out there. But you know what? You are human. You only get so much done.
That's what happened with the Crimson. Yeah, I think they misspelled Ren's name or something.
I've got
just like, oh no.
I found one sentence in Falcon's Fall too. I'm just like, ugh. Who edited this?
You did.
Actually, Christian did, I think.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Well, you edited mine. You didn't catch that his name's misspelled.
And that's the thing. We're human. We make mistakes. Like, as much as we try and fix things, we try to put our own spin on things, that we're fallible. That's what writers do. But anyone else want to add why they write before we go on to read?
I feel sorry for some of the lesser liked characters. I want to make them seem better in a better light. One of my Harry Potter fanfics was
Snape.
Yes, it was Snape. But it was like this a very, very long series where I went through like my main character was an OC. She went through like I think it was like the first 5 years of her schooling or something under Snape as a student. But then something happened. I can't remember what it was. Something happened that sent her back in time. And then she was in the Marauders era, but she was in the body of an 11-year-old. She had to start school all over again. So then she grew up with Snape, was taken in by Lily Evans. And it was like, you know, grew up and befriended Snape. And then she never got sent back to the future, but it was like, it was interesting. It was one of my more favorite fan fictions, but I think I lost it, so I'm gonna have to rewrite it with the same concept.
And what Barbara was talking about there was the concept of a Peggy Sue, which is a character who somehow ends up back in time in their own body, or like with their memories of what happened, and now decides to change the future. Sometimes actually being written well, most of the time in fanfiction not.
Most of the time,
memory,
yes.
Days of Future Past.
Of why that's a really good one. Example of how it actually could work and done really well. But the Chosen that I did for Star Wars was my idea of like the lesser known characters, Barbara, you brought up. These were, and also one of them was a Mary Sue from anyone who has ever read the Jedi Prince books for Star Wars with Ken, the titular Jedi Prince. It becomes best friends with Luke and serves under him as an apprentice and meets Leia and Han and everyone else. And they fight whalers on Mon Calamari, and they search for the glove of Darth Vader. He is the kind of the definition of a Mary Sue. So one of my goals was to turn him into someone people would actually like and would fit within the canon, as well as introduce a bunch of other people who had smaller bit roles. And some of them, like there was like one sentence on Wikipedia, and I decided to give them a backstory and characterization. So I really enjoyed that. But once again, unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish it.
Was that the Triclops series?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
All right. So, Peng, you kind of brought up a little bit about why do you read fan fiction, like, but everyone else, and Peng, anything else you want to add to this conversation? Why do we read fan fiction?
Because our little hearts need to swim more. That's why.
Your little shipper heart needs more.
My little shipper heart just needs more.
Maybe it's always a fun
time.
No, I agree with the Spirited Away one because I just didn't want the story to end there because it's like bittersweet.
Even Howl's Moving Castle. I'm like, I need to know what, I get it. Sophie and Howl, they love each other. I even went and I read the book. I read the book, Howl's Moving Castle. Also, it didn't go further than what the movie did. It's very tragic.
No.
So that's why we have to go to fan fiction to heal our hearts and to know what happens.
Go ahead, John.
I'm just trying to think of there's some other animes where it ended, mostly Ghibli films because they end like My Neighbor Totoro, but they actually did get like a little short movie spinoff. But you just fall in love with being in the world so much.
They end on cliffhangers, you mean?
And yeah, they end on cliffhangers, but you just love being in that world. You are, mesmerized by just how creative and the music is wonderful. And I mean, like Nausicaa is another good one. And I mean, just.
It's also it's so sad whenever a manga gets discontinued, an anime doesn't have a second season. Like we need closure.
Like Wolf's Rain, where especially the manga, where it ends right before they get their real comeuppance or whatever.
You want to make
you want to see
better.
You want to see it.
Yeah, excellent reasons, everyone, because like as you experience media and an intellectual property, and you go, that's where they choose to end it, or there really wasn't enough interest for them to bring a season 2 or season 3 to actually finish this off, or the manga got cut off, or the writer died, or they George R.R. Martin themselves and doing nothing. So now I have to figure out on my own what happens in Game of Thrones versus someone who's had over a decade to get stuff done. So you want what would someone else? How would they interpret, given the world that we have, how things could go? And that's why I love reading fan theories about how, Roose Bolton is actually a vampire, or this. Goodness gracious, I can't remember his name. We'll just say whatever. It's like what happens there, and if those things are real, if the things fans are speculating about happen, if a story is never going to get an ending that we want, well, let's see what someone else has done. So I've read a lot of actually not too long ago read some Star Wars fan fiction in the new canons, be like, hey, here's how things could improve, under if you actually have a team of writers and you actually spend your time developing things and you have interesting ideas that actually have, great execution for characterization versus what we got. I enjoy seeing that because that's what I wanted from those films. I wanted to see Rey, become a Jedi in her own without just being this ultra powerful because she just get things. She's just the bestest and we should all love Rey. And then Finn gets sidelined after having a good motivation becoming a stormtrooper, and Poe gets sidelined despite having, a good hotshot rebel pilot, and so on and so forth. Like, why can't I see someone else do it better? Well, that's what fan fiction is for. And I think, we kind of also answered the next question too, but I'll bring it up anyways, unless anyone else has one thing they want to add.
No, good.
Okay. So what is it about the IPs in particular that we engage in fanfic wise to make us want more from them? Like, we kind of brought up like what scenarios that could happen. It's like, is there anything else you want to add there?
What was the question again?
Oh my gosh, Sean.
It's okay. We love him anyways. What is it about the IPs we engage in fanfic wise that makes us want more from them?
I think it's like we enjoy it. We enjoy it so much, especially if we really resonate with an IP like Star Wars. It's such a big universe, and we love playing with lightsabers and the video games, and it's such a fun place to be at that you just want to spend more time there. And if you're unsatisfied, you feel like it needs to be done differently.
Oh, I mean, it's the same with Lord of the Rings for me. Like, the world is just so expansive, and Tolkien didn't even get to publish like half of his works. His grandson had to edit and posthumously publish some stuff. So it's like, what else can be waiting in the world? So it's, that's why I like to read something when I'm definitely having a writer's block, or that's the one fandom I always seem to come back to, where it's like, no matter, where I am in life, it's just like, it's comforting in a way. Or it's like, it's either that or even like just playing the music. Like, even when we had Luna in literally the
afterbirth room?
I wasn't going to call it the afterbirth room. It's the recovery room, mother baby room, the afterbirth room. We were playing Shire music, and she settled right down with that. So it was like just the magic of it. I mean, her middle name is Celebrienne, so we came to an agreement. So best of both worlds, I guess.
There you go. Bang.
So it's like, it's for some people, like that same magic exists in other IPs. So it's like, comforting almost.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you read just like you would read any book. It's a nice distraction of the mundane world that you live in. It's a nice, you have a hard day, you can literally disconnect and give your mind a break and enjoy the world that you enjoy. I mean, what middle schooler doesn't want to freaking be a ninja and have a love life at the same time? Like, I can have everything in fanfiction. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was in like the 5th grade when I was reading Harry Potter. So it's like, what kid doesn't want to be a witch or a wizard? So
you feel like you are more in that world, because when you watch a movie, it's easy to zone out and just kind of like stare at the screen. But when you're reading it, it's kind of like absorbing into your mind.
It stimulates your mind more. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like more transported. Like you feel more in there when you read versus just watching the movie and kind of glazing over.
Yeah, I completely and utterly agree. There's something about escaping away into that world initially that brings a lot of joy, but then, that's all that remains of that world. That's the only thing that exists in physical media. What else? Oh, someone else liked this enough to write about it? Well, let's see what they have to say. And as is often the case in fan fiction, your mileage may vary, and chances are it's not going to be good. But for those gems that you do find, it's well worth the experience, because you think, oh, I never would have thought about that. You made this whole twist to how magic works, or you've made a fun way for this character to interact with a character that never canon. Like, I am very happy to see that. Or there's a scenario for me, as someone who I've said this several times before on the show, I despise ambiguity. If you leave an ending where it could be interpreted multiple ways, I want the ending to where it is interpreted one way as the author intended. Well, if that author isn't going to get off their butt and actually write that ending, then a fanfic writer can come in and say, this is how I think things should have gone. And you can disagree with them, or you can like what they have to say. And it's what's really fun about all this is like seeing what someone else would think. This is what I would write if I was doing it, but what about someone who thinks way differently to me?
Well said.
Well, all right. So we've mentioned the term a couple of times here, and I'm here to trigger a bunch of people with the choices I selected for this. So if you're ready for that, you've already heard one of the names. A common occurrence in the fandom is to have characters that are known as Mary Sues or Gary Stews. And for those not in the know, if you're wondering what all this terminology is, succinctly, like a Mary Sue or Gary Stew is a character written with no flaws or trivial flaws that really don't matter to the story, like a certain character I'll mention just being clumsy. That's her one flaw. Or just like they just pick up things so easily. They're the best at everything. They just get things better than everyone else because they're just better. Like, that is a Mary Sue. They're just so perfect and wonderful that people just love them. Think Bella Swan from Twilight, Kirito from Sword Art Online, and pretty much almost every single light novel / isekai protagonist in existence. Ask me. I pretty much watched them all because I'm trash, and I love watching that trash.
Sorry.
And to finally make everyone angry, Rey from the films that shall not be named. I will take on that heat. We're going to have that debate on The Last Jedi a couple months from now. I'm really looking forward to that discussion because there's some people here who really love it, and there are people like me who are the exact opposite. And since I'm in charge of this episode, I can say all the slanderous things I want about it. So take that, Joshua. So with all that in mind, is there any harm to having fanfics based around these character archetypes when actual published material does the same, that are actual Mary Sue / Gary Stew characters in fiction that has been published and read and sold millions worth of dollars?
You're saying, is there harm in fan fiction?
Is there harm, like, for fanfics to do the same thing? For the general idea, I probably also should have said this. The name Mary Sue originates from a Star Trek fan fiction, where there's a character named Mary Sue, and she's just perfect and the best, and everyone in the Enterprise loves her. So the fan fiction kind of got the idea is a lot of people would write power fantasies or creating a character who's just the best at everything and is so good looking, gets all the girls or all the men, depending on who's writing.
So there's like no tragic backstory like Sasuke and his whole family getting murdered. It's just all perfect.
Or they'll have a tragic backstory, but they'll use that just to be edgy and cool than actually, confronting the demons of the past or like having an actual character arc or something like that. It's just written to be like appealing, normally in some situations to a younger female audience in that regard. Like is there any
growth whatsoever? Yeah.
I mean,
is there any
write what you want to write. Nah. I mean, because it's fiction. Write what you want to write. I mean, the perfect person doesn't exist, but if you want to create it, try it. I'm sure we'll find a typo anyway.
John or Barbara?
You go ahead.
Sorry. No, I'm just saying there are some stories that I've read where the writer is like a new writer. Like they haven't written fan fiction or even stories at all before, and they absolutely have no idea that the character they're writing is considered a Mary Sue. And then after a few chapters in, they realize it, and then they write this long author's note going, "Oh my gosh, you guys, I am so sorry. I had no idea." Then either they cut off the story completely, or they continue on and they actually include some flaws like in the development and character growth and stuff like that and become a better writer because of it. Or they do add in an author's note and then they just go with the flow now, knowing what a Mary Sue is and then rolling with it. So there's a few different scenarios surrounding Mary Sues and Gary Stews. And honestly, I don't know if I've really consciously ever had one in my own fan fictions. I feel like a lot of my characters were all like emo and moody and broody and stuff like that, but I don't think I've really had like a chipper, perfecty angel character before. I think I was always after the whole emo scene, so
She like bad boys.
I had a whole thing in my like high school years where I went after like hot Asian guys. And as you see, like John is not a hot Asian guy.
Hot Asian guy.
The opposite.
He's not hot or Asian.
Settled.
Yeah, apparently I did. No, I grew out of that. Okay. I did. I grew out of it. But it's like,
go ahead.
It's a phase for some people, but then for some other writers, I mean, they may not really know that what their writing is. I'm sorry. I saw like his foot come up from underneath the table.
I was trying to stretch. I'm sorry.
Like, what is that? We've had mice in here before, and I'm just like, that better not be a giant rat. But no, what I was saying is,
go ahead, Barbara. I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
I've completely lost my train of thought now. Thanks, John.
Sorry.
Your turn.
This is why this whole time is saying, man, Christian's being mean to John. This is why. Because I love John immensely, I make fun of John. And John has been a good sport over the years to take all my verbal abuse. Hasn't gotten physical yet. I'm waiting.
Kill John won't last very long if you get physical.
But it comes from a place of love. So, John, what would you answer to this question?
I forgot the question at this point.
Goodness gracious, you're hopeless.
So you're done for.
The episode. No more.
Okay.
John doesn't get to speak again. Gag and Barbara. Now, the question being, is there anything wrong with having Mary Sue's being associated with the fandom who writes fanfics, or like in general that fanfics do have sometimes Mary Sue's in them?
I like she said before, let people write what they want to write, because if they're not they're going to gain an audience. They're still expressing themselves and engaging with an IP in their own way. I know some people like to just throw smut or ship things, but that's their own thing, and I'm not going to read it, but that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. I'm not going to stop them from expressing themselves, or I'm sure there's a niche market for that, but I like being able to have the freedom of having your characters or OCs interact with other characters, and that can be a lot of fun and really freeing for some people, to be able to interact, because you wouldn't be able to otherwise.
I agree with my co-hosts here. This is one of those things. It's, for the most part, it's harmless. Like, it's normally someone who's writing for the first time, learning how things work, learning how to make an actual character, versus someone who's the most powerful person ever, who could beat Goku in one punch and therefore become, the greatest Dragon Ball character of all time, or what have you. Like, as someone who has written a Gary Stu, I needed to learn that to develop my own writing and go, okay, this is not as interesting as I think it is, simply because my OC is greater and better than everyone else. That does not an interesting character make. So I then took the basic idea from that. Once again, Nathaniel Kenobi Solo Clan Fett. That's where I took my name in KSCF, kind of as a reminder to me that no matter how good of a writer I became as time went on, I would always be the idiot teenager who wrote Nathaniel Kenobi Solo Clan Fett. And I have since taken that, and one of my main characters of my books is Nathaniel David Parker, who has some of those archetypes that started in these earlier fanfics, but has since branched off to become an actual character who is just as capable of being flawed as anyone else. I really hope so. Unless John has been lying to me this entire time and enjoying the actual character as he edits these books. But
I've read some of the books. I enjoy your characters.
Thank you, Barbara. This is why I called everyone together for this episode, just so they could say, "Good, you're a really good writer, Christian." But
I liked it.
You're better than John.
But excellent. but seriously though, without what I started with, fanfic writing wise, without learning this is what works, this is what doesn't, I wouldn't be the writer that I am today. So it's not a stain on my record that Nathaniel Kenobi Solo Clan Fett exists, because that shows where I was versus where I am now. And I really appreciate that. I'm glad I'm not the same writer I was when I was 15, 16 years old.
Right.
Right.
Indeed.
So yeah, go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say that was my first foray into writing. Also, my first writing story that I did was a Spy Kids fan fiction, and with 2 OCs. So,
Ooh,
yeah, ooh,
2 whole OCs.
but I had that much brain power at that time.
2 cells.
That's why I got all cylinders. No, it was fun, and I developed my, learning how to describe environments and learning how to carry on a story and come up with plots, and instead of just winging it from day one, which you remember I used to just start on page 1 and just go all over the place until the story ends. Now I actually have develop a plan. I know where the plot's going to go. I have characters I think about and all kinds of stuff.
John has grown immensely as a writer, and not to say that I haven't either, but from when we first met, I was the one. I had everything detailed, outlined. This is what's going to happen in this chapter because this character said this, and this chapter here, and there's John, stream of consciousness, just vomiting the words up on the screen and writing some good stuff. But not to say that that's wrong to do, but he has since become closer to me, which is what I prefer, and has worked in his favor.
Closer to perfection.
Yeah, closer to perfection.
I've always
of
been
course.
half and half though. But it's
let's get there are plenty of writers out there. Yeah. That they don't need to outline everything. They can just I have a general idea, and we'll see what happens. And it works for them.
Yeah. I mean, each person has their own writing technique, so
okay. Well, does anyone have anything else they'd like to discuss for this episode before we start wrapping things up? Pang, you're good?
I don't think so.
All right. So with that in mind, everyone, what about you? Is there any fan fiction out there you'd really like us to see? Show us on our Facebook group or head over to Discord and let us know there. We'd really like to know what it is. But as far as everything else is concerned, do you guys have a recommendation for the audience? It doesn't have to be about fan fiction. Could be just anything in general.
Well, before a couple weeks ago, I mean, I've been playing through a game we just got for our PlayStation 5 for Christmas. Tactically, we bought it for Jenna, but I've kind of taken it over. It's Disney's Dreamlight Valley. Yeah. So I don't even know how far through with it I am, but it's the main quest and then all the different characters and their side quests. It's just really interesting. An interesting world building dynamic to it. It's children's dress-up game meets RPG, kind of, in a way. I like the kind of games where you can change your outfits and stuff like that. It's not just one same outfit every day that you're playing.
I've been playing Smash with the kids, Smash Ultimate on the Switch. That's been a lot of fun. So far, it's my favorite Smash game because it also includes all the Nintendo 64 levels and all the other and the fun throwbacks and things like that. It's cool.
Are you putting the fear of God in your children, or are they beating you now?
They're beating him.
Tell you what, I think Joseph he's only 5, but he is really good at these games, and it's making me mad.
Other autistic children, they usually have their one thing that they find comfort in, their solace. Joseph's, I think, is definitely video games. And so he's able to take a video game, figure out the dynamics of it, solve puzzles, and go through a game that usually takes an adult a while to complete. He might not be able to completely figure out 100% of the dynamics of everything, but he's really good at playing video games. And he's not 5 anymore. He's gonna be 6
in 2 days.
2 days.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Joseph. This will be after the fact, but still happy birthday. Pang, how about you?
So I didn't just rewatch My Love Story. I know, shocker, right? I'm the romance queen. But this one's really cute. I'm recommending it since we just talked about the Sioux people. But this girl, she falls in love not with the perfect hot guy, but with the dorky, who kind of looks like a monkey giant gorilla best friend.
That's That's
And
kind of
so
cute.
it's so
This
cute.
is a pretty good one.
Like,
Gordo.
you watched it?
I've watched the whole thing.
Yeah,
I wish there were other seasons.
I needed something just lighthearted, because I was kind of being like a little emo kid. So I was like, okay, let's get out of this. But it's so sweet, just like two kids falling in love for the first time and like really loving each other. And it's just so sweet because because all the girls he's ever had a crush on always fell in love with the best friend. And so he fell in love with this girl, and he just assumed she was trying to get with his best friend like all the other girls, but no, she wanted him. So sweet.
It is a very sweet. It's a sugary diabetes field.
Yeah, I think your daughter would love it.
It's good.
Diabetes.
No, no. I had to take an insulin shot just watching it.
It sounds cute. It does. I'm into a lot of that stuff. I have to drag John into watching a few things too.
As far as my recommendation is concerned, I brought it up earlier, but now and then here and there, it's a solid 12, 13 episode anime. I mean, you could finish it in a day if you really had the time. It's well worth it. I really do enjoy it a lot. But that's it. So let me go ahead and real quick shout out some of our patrons. Thank you, James Barrett, Ethan Overcash, Austin Nance, and Amber Riley. Thank you for everything you do. We really do appreciate you guys deciding that we are worth your time and money. And we will be having a bonus question after this. So for everyone else, remember, we are all the chosen people, a geekdom of priests.